Okay, my name is Paul Julian, and I'm here at the Veterans Memorial Center in Merritt Island, Florida, with my partner Joe Davey, and we're going to been lucky to be able to talk with Don Pearsall, a true warrior, and also dedicated right now to serving veterans. The date is April 11th, and we're like at about 10:30 a.m. Thank you again, Don, for doing this interview with us. Don, where were you born?
Rockville Center, New York, on Long Island.
Your parents were, who were your parents, and did both of them work? And
Yes, my parents are Donald and Lillian Pearsall, and my dad was a manager in the phone company, New York Telephone, and my mom worked at the school district
okay,
up on Long Island.
and the did you have any siblings?
Yeah, I have my brother Kenny lives over in Rockledge.
Okay, and did Kenny serve in the service?
No,
No. Okay.
no.
All right. So with that, Don, did your parents or Kenny have any feelings about you joining the service?
Well, my mom and dad didn't know. What I did is I was in my high school year. I was a senior, and June at the end of the year, I went in on the delayed enlistment program. I enlisted in the Army because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was not college material, and so I enlisted in the Army in June, and they gave me the summer off, and I reported for duty September 15th, I believe it was.
In what year?
1966.
And Don, was there any concern with, hey, I'm going to get drafted, so better negotiation?
Yeah, I figured by enlisting that would put me in a better spot to negotiate what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
They were giving you a choice at that time. If you got drafted, you just did whatever they told you to do and
Mm-hmm.
had no recourse.
Yeah. And did you say the parents? What did you say the parents? Did your parents have any feeling?
No, well, my mother did,
Yeah.
of course, and but my dad said, hey, maybe that's the best thing for him, because my dad, he was a Marine himself, and he was in World War II in the South Pacific, so he kind of understood that I wasn't college material, and I'd probably last about 3 weeks in college, and that'd be the end of that.
Yeah.
So,
Did he have anything to say about you going to Army versus before?
Yeah, and he didn't make a big deal out of it, because he knew that I had a passion for flying. All I wanted to do was fly. And so the Marine Corps, I went down to the Marine Corps recruiter, because I said, well, I'll just join the Marine Corps. And the Marine Corps recruiter told me flat out, he said, the Army has got more of an aggressive helicopter program than the Marine Corps does. You're probably better off going to the Army, which was kind of weird for a Marine Corps recruiter to say.
Yeah,
But
that is
I said, okay. I said,
Yeah.
So I went next door, because they were all on the road, the Navy and everybody.
It's
all
like they
on
have
the
at
road.
Rockledge now.
Yeah, like in Rockledge,
Yeah,
yeah. So I went there and talked to him, and I said, look, I want to enlist, but I want to go to flight school. And they said, well, we don't know. You have to take all kinds of testing and stuff like this and that. And so I took the test, and I didn't pass it.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, now what do I do? So I waited a while, and I took the test second time, and I missed it by just a hair. And they said, well, we're going to put you in an MOS was for wheel vehicle mechanic. And I said, I don't want to be a mechanic. I want to do something with helicopters. So anyway, they wound
And you
up
still were able to, because you weren't drafted or you didn't sign, you still had.
right, yeah. And so what happened was I went to my wheel vehicle mechanic school in Fort Jackson, South Carolina, and then right from there I got shipped to Darmstadt, Germany, just outside of Frankfurt, where I worked for 93rd Signal Battalion. Excuse me. And then what happened while I was over there is that I had the opportunity. There was our unit, our signal unit, also had helicopters. We were a flight detachment too. So one day, I talked to one of the pilots. I said, I'm off. You know, I'd like to go and fly with you guys. Yeah, that's no problem. We'll get the permission from the first sergeant. Excuse me. So what they did was what what they did was they they let me fly with them in my off time, and I would volunteer. And what we were doing at the time was we were flying for the Austrian government had a National Geographical survey team working for the government. They were contractors. They worked for the Austrian government building these weather radar sites. And our job was to fly back and forth, bring their mail, bring a shopping list that, you know, from the PX or something, and we'd do that. And we're going back and forth.
Logistics, just
yeah.
stuff, yeah.
And we did that for about, I did that for about 9-10 months. And what happened was I really enjoyed flying. Now, all the pilots that we had were fresh out of Vietnam. When the pilot got done in Vietnam, they gave him his choice of duty. Well, everybody picked Europe because, hey, I can see the States anytime. Right. So they're all coming to Europe. So I got to meet a lot and talk to a lot of these pilots that are saying, oh, man, Vietnam, that's the Army, man. That's really where it's at. You want some action and man, and adventures and stuff. And I said, wow, man, that's what I want to do. Not just flying back and forth. So I put in what they call a 1049 transfer, and it was accepted within hours, because they said, well, here's a guy that wants to fly, you know. And so they sent me to back to the United States and went to Fort Rucker, Alabama for combat aviation school. Since I couldn't be a pilot, I said, well, at least I'm going to be able to fly, you know, and that was my main concern. Yeah. So they sent me to Fort Rucker, and Fort Rucker was pretty nice. I went up with a pilot, and he would say did have a big field with watermelons in it with different colors, blue and yellow and red. And the pilot would come on the headset, on the helmet, and he would say, we're coming up to a target, a yellow target, hit it. I'd stop firing, man, I was getting really close to the target, and all of a sudden he'd go, wow, with the aircraft, and man, it really screwed you up. He was trying to see how you would lead a target. And the reason being is, like in Vietnam, if you're firing at a particular target and you have to pull an evasive maneuver, they're going to want you to stay right on the target, even though you're making an evasive maneuver.
Be able to adjust.
Be able to adjust in an instant. So that was a lot of that combat flight school. Then I had 30 days leave. I went home on Long Island, stayed there for a while, and then I went to Fort Lewis, Washington, and from there to Cam Bay, Vietnam.
Okay, if we can digress.
Yeah.
Thank you, Don. When you before you went in, Don, did you leave anything or anyone behind? Did you have like a girlfriend? Or?
Yeah, I had a girlfriend. Yeah.
Okay, and it was just like a high school.
Yeah.
Nothing serious.
Yeah.
Okay. Your initial point of entry was
Fort Hamilton, Brooklyn.
Okay, and your basic training was
Fort Gordon, Georgia.
Fort Gordon, Georgia.
Yeah, outside of Augusta.
And that was for basic training. And Don, as far as, did you say that you took like wheeled vehicle training?
Yeah, the AIT was advanced infantry training. Yeah.
And in the Navy they call it the rate. So that.
Yeah.
So was that many weeks or months? Or?
That was, I believe it was only 8 weeks.
Yeah.
It wasn't really all that long.
Yeah.
But they were kind of, because I couldn't pass the pilot exam, or they kind of figured they had to do something with me.
Right.
So they gave me a couple of choices, and one of them was wheel vehicle mechanic. I said, well, if I got to do that, I'll do that. Right. You know, that was my next choice anyway. If I was going to do something.
Right. So you would learn, Don, how to operate vehicles and.
Yeah, you get your military truck driver's license,
Okay.
and then you get you learn how to tear them apart and do transmissions, and
I
it's
see.
totally different from working on your own pickup truck. That's for
Yeah.
sure. You know.
It ended up being very different.
Yeah, we used to have the at the time the
Were
military.
they diesel, most of them?
Yeah, they were using what they call the LDS 427-2, which was a diesel engine, but it could burn on alcohol, shaving lotion, anything. Yeah, aftershave. It
Sounds
would burn
high
just
tech
about
back
anything.
in that age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They would use it with kerosene. You know, it would burn anything. It was a multi-fuel.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was a challenge working on some of those.
Was the what was the best part of that school? Was it
The people I met,
people you met?
yeah, made some good friends there.
What was the worst part?
Have to be getting up so early in the morning.
Okay, so your first assignment after and I know we're digressing and we're
Right,
kind of
okay.
The first assignment after basic training, Don, was
The AIT school, the wheel vehicle mechanic
okay,
school.
and was there any other specialized training?
No, not really. At that time, there wasn't. No, I didn't do any of that. Then I did further on. But
The instructors, do they come to mind? Anything special?
we had one drill. Well, he was a sergeant. He used to be a drill sergeant, so he's still kind of that drill sergeant mode, you know. And he would kind of yell at you all the time, and say, well, "Wait a minute, man, I can't do this. I'm trying to do a job. I got to concentrate. I don't have somebody looking over my shoulder." But that was the only time.
So
Micromanager, yeah. But other than that, I met some really good people there.
Okay. Don, did you get promoted?
Yes, I went from E1. No, I went from E2 to E3.
Okay.
There, yeah.
Okay. Okay, and then this is like general. Now we've got through basic training, boot camp, and then now we got your specialized training. Now let's just talk about just a couple questions. What was the hardest? Was the hardest part of the conversion, the change to the military lifestyle? Was it getting up early?
No, it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, because I was brought up in a household with a Marine that, he had certain rules, and my brother and I had to conform. If we went out of our room and left the light on, do that twice, 3 times, he'd take the light bulb out to teach you a lesson. After a while, you'd never shut the light out when you're done using your room, I mean, things like this. He was a Marine's Marine.
Yeah.
And he was with the Air Wing in the South Pacific and down in Bougainville and plays at Guadalcanal and stuff like that. But he had a lot of set. He was strict in a way, but very, very good dad in a way, too, I mean, so I didn't have much problem with the discipline or anything going into the Army,
Because you had that background.
Yeah, I had background of not being. It wasn't. It was a bad childhood. It was just we learned, and that's what a child is supposed to do. He's supposed to learn. And my dad and mom, they did a great job. As far as teaching us right things to do and wrong things to do.
Yes, was there like an easier? Was there like an easier part of the lifestyle? I think you said, hey, like this Army drill sergeant and whatever, they got nothing on my dad, so we got that. But
Right.
is there anything easy?
Nothing was easy.
Nothing was easy.
Nothing was
My
really
same
easy.
sentiments. Yeah.
Mainly, and I think the problem was I wasn't really doing what I wanted to do. But
That was probably. What do you think, Don? Probably the hardest part.
Oh, yeah.
Not knowing.
Oh,
like,
yeah, without a doubt.
Right.
Because I'm saying, well, I don't want to do this the next 4 years, 5 years. I had planned on staying in longer. And I said, I don't know if I could do this, But it worked out to my advantage, overall.
Don, as far as like a lesson learned, was it at that point you knew that, well, this is something that is outside the lines as far as, well, I don't qualify for this or blah blah. So you went ahead and worked. You went ahead and worked with the system as best you could, and you
Yeah.
got it to work. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's something you learned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right.
Now, the first assignment was in Germany,
My first overseas assignment.
and then you work with the Austrian,
Well, the Austrian government, yeah.
and were they part of NATO? Was that
No, it didn't have to do with the military. It had to do with, we were kind of assigned to the National Geographical Survey team from the U.S. They were contractors
you kind of like
for,
positive relations with
Right.
European government?
Right.
Okay.
like we also had the infantry part of our unit also had guard duty at a rubber factory that made tires for the German government, for their military and stuff.
Just the
So
PR, the
more or less
Yeah,
PR,
okay.
yeah.
okay.
And
We're still doing it.
And to give somebody something to do.
Right.
You know, that's basically what
we're
it was.
still doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Don, you went how many months?
In Germany,
Yeah.
about 9 months total.
9 months, and
Yeah.
in that time, it looked like you saw an opportunity, right?
Yeah.
Based on what your
Yeah.
goal was, and that was smart.
Yeah, and I was really very fortunate or blessed because of the fact that the pilot that I first contacted with over there, him and I hit it off. We both liked hot rods. He had a GTO, I had a GTO, and so we had a lot of things in common. And so what we did is when I talked to him and asked him about flying with him, yeah, what the heck, you know? He said, I can, you know, and it was kind of a lax atmosphere over there, very relaxed atmosphere in Germany. So that's how I started flying, and boy, I thought I was King Tut there, you know. I'm finally flying, even though it's not a permanent thing.
So, Don, I take it at that point, and I see it now with you, you were outgoing. And,
Oh, yeah.
and being outgoing kind of
Yeah.
gives you opportunities that somebody
Yeah.
is like shy or, you know,
Yeah,
that's
no,
important.
I knew what I wanted, and he was telling me about a lot of times his dog owner wasn't available because he was on sick call or something like this, and I said, hey, whenever he's on sick call, man, call me if I'm off. You know, I had great hours over there to work, so it worked out good that I could fly, you know. And I had to get permission, of course, from the company commander and everything, but that was not a big issue.
Great. All right. So, from Germany, Don, where did you go next?
Back to Fort Walters, Texas.
And,
I mean, Fort Rucker, Alabama.
okay, that's for the.
I was supposed to go to Walters, but they moved the helicopters training center from
Fort
Fort
Rucker.
Walters, Texas, to Fort Rucker, Alabama.
And I think right now, even to this day, they do training there still.
Yeah,
Right?
they're still there. Yeah.
And how many weeks was that?
I want to say it was 6 or 8 weeks. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not positive. I think it was 6 or 8 weeks.
There was more substance than the wheeled.
Oh yeah, because they knew you were going to Vietnam, so you know.
There was no question. You're not doing
No.
more duty up in Germany. It's,
No, because when I volunteered to go to Vietnam.
Okay.
That's what I got. I still have the original orders and the letter from the Army thanking me for my interest in serving in Vietnam. It's all yellowed and stuff, and I got it in plastic, but there's a lot of.
So it's serious. This is not.
Yeah,
I just didn't just have to pass, and I'm
when
just
I
do the
knew
best.
I was going to Vietnam, I said I got to buckle down and
Yeah.
really learn what
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to cause somebody else to have some grief. You know.
Was it? Was the focus? It probably all around being in a helicopter, but was it focused on you being a gunman? Was that
Yeah,
the gunner?
yeah, it was focused on me doing that job.
And you mentioned before, it's like, hey, you know, it doesn't like go in a straight line. I mean, and so that was the thing. You have
Yeah.
to anticipate maybe.
Yeah.
and-
And you never know what the pilot's going to do because he's too busy doing it. He ain't got time to explain why, you know. But if he saw that, if he happened to come over and he happened to see over to, on one side or the other, he happened to see a bunch of people with rockets and stuff. Naturally, he's going to try and evade, and you know, to stop. And if you're on a target, you got to be able to keep it on that target, not start firing in, and that's important because a lot of times you're flying information with another helicopter. You don't want to swing around and hit him, you know. So there was stops. We had stops out there.
You had to be totally aware, and you had to adjust on a split second. You can't.
Yeah, it was. That was a challenge. That was a challenge.
Would you say that, Don? Would they say that's one of the biggest?
Yeah, yeah, without a doubt. The first couple of times, man, I just blew it, man. I couldn't stay on the target. But then I started concentrating. I'm saying, man, if I wash out of this is my golden opportunity. You know, if I wash out of this, I'm done, you know. So I made sure that I paid attention and absorbed all the training I could get, you know.
About 8 weeks, 10 weeks or whatever. And then did they give you, before you went over to Nam, did they give you some leave or no?
Yeah, I had 30 days leave. Yeah, I went home.
Mm-hmm.
And naturally, both my parents at that point was saying, "Oh man, Vietnam, you know, you had it made in Germany. What's wrong with you?" You know. But
you were chasing what you wanted to do.
I wanted to. That's what I wanted to do. I mean, you know, the pilots coming back over in Germany, they painted such a picture of this is where you belong. I mean, this is a real army, man. This is what we're paid to do. This is what we want to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and Vietnam was very hot at the time, very hot. And so that was in late '67. I ended up going over there in November of '67.
Just right near the Tet Offensive?
Yeah, the Tet Offensive was in January and February, March of '68. Okay. And that was brutal. I mean, that was brutal.
So let's, as far as the timing, Don, when you got over to Nam, tell me, do you remember what part of Vietnam you went to?
Yeah, I went to Cam Ranh Bay, which was the 22nd Replacement Battalion, I believe, at the time. And from there...
It was at that point, Don, I think the dividing line for my study is that up until Tet Offensive is like they're getting reports back, everything's squared away. We're gonna kill we're gonna kill them to where they can't replace them, and right, and then Tet happened.
Yeah. And the Army's theory at the time when I got to Cam Ranh Bay was the only way you know if you're winning or losing is the body count, which was a heck of a way of doing it, because you would conquer it. You'd take a mountain, then you have to give it back. You know, it was a bad.
I heard that same thing done in Hamburger Hill.
Yeah, Hamburger Hill twice. They had to take
a lot of killed.
Yeah.
And they left, and they were just back.
Yeah, and the thing was. Well, not to get ahead of myself, I landed in Cam Ranh Bay, which was like the reception center for all of Vietnam, there in Da Nang. So we landed at Cam Ranh Bay, and I thought, this is nice. They're on a beach, beautiful beach. This is awesome, man. This is a way to have a reception center. So they... You
weren't getting any of those things you give in Hawaii. They weren't giving.
No, weren't getting the lace. No. And so I grabbed my duffel bag, and as I'm walking off the plane, this drill sergeant or whatever he was yelling, "Anybody here with combat flight MOS? Anybody here with combat flight?" And I look around, and a couple of guys raised their hands. You know, get out in front, face forward. So I go out, and I raise my hand. I go out, and he says, "Get on that aircraft over there." And I said, I just got here. I didn't even go to the bathroom yet. And here I am. And then on the way up, I'm in the helicopter, and on the way up, we're flying north. And I says, I had a helmet on too, and I says to the crew chief, I says, where are we going? He says, bend me to it, up in the Central Highlands. I says, oh. I said, how far is that? He said, about another 25 minutes ride. He says the reason that he said we got to get you up there right away. He says because we're losing freaking aircraft like crazy, you know. So I said, what? I said, what do you mean? He said, well, they give us a life expectancy of 19 minutes. I says, are you kidding me? And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, what have I got myself into? You know, do I really want to do this?
Actually, that conversation.
Yeah.
Took,
Yeah.
And you just got there.
And I just got there. I was there an hour maybe. And I didn't even get a chance to look around or get something to eat or nothing. I was on my, so we're flying along, and all I see, as far as I can see, every direction is jungle. I'm saying, oh man, what now? And all of a sudden, we see this little postage stamp down on the ground. And he says, there it is. There's our base. So he says, Jesus, miles from nowhere, and on the side of a mountain. So we land in Bamituit, and that was my home for the year. I was with they sent me to the 155th Assault Helicopter Company in stationed Camp Coryell in Bamituit.
And Don, what was could you attach any strategic purpose in that location? Was there any?
Yeah, because we were right on, Bamituit was right on the Ho Chi Minh Trail, which was called Highway 1 over there. And it was the main road from North Vietnam down into Central and South Vietnam. It's a dirt road, two-lane dirt road full of holes and mud and stuff, but there's where the Viet Cong and the North Vietnamese regulars would bring their arms and stuff down and stuff to supply the Viet Cong in the north, in the south. So it was a strategic spot.
You were right on the front line then.
Right, and plus we had a leprosarium. It was about maybe 5 miles away.
And what was that again, sir?
A leprosarium, a leper colony they would call it, but it's a leprosarium. And what would happen was the North Vietnamese and the Viet Cong would come and kidnap the doctors that worked there, and kidnap them and take them up north to work in the hospitals for the North Vietnamese, for the communists. So we had a lot of times pull guard duty over there. We had troops that went over to the leprosarium. We had bunkers there that we would surround them. We never dealt with the patients. We dealt just with their cadre, their supervision people, and just make sure that they wouldn't come in and steal the doctors. You know, so that was a threat, and that was near us. So that was a strategic spot. Plus, we were on the main roads, not only on the Ho Chi Minh Trail, but the main roads going to Tuy Hoa and Quy Nhon, which were on the coast. So from the central highlands to the coast, that was a direct route. Right. And Viet Cong used to love that road because the road went through the dense jungle and it was like a triple canopy jungle. You know, you couldn't see the road from the air. So there was a lot of challenges right where we were, you know.
In my mind, the Ho Chi Minh Trail, that wasn't along a border, right? That was. I'm talking about. I'm thinking Laos, Cambodia, and Laos.
It was along the border in a lot of spots of Cambodia and Laos and stuff, and that posed another set of challenges because we weren't allowed in there. So you had to be careful where you were flying along the Ho Chi Minh Trail. Some of it was legal, some of it wasn't, and they wouldn't let us go if the Viet Cong escaped or they attacked and they ran and hid. They would hide like in the rubber plantations, which we weren't allowed to fire into a rubber plantation because they were owned by Michelin and other concerns that were American rubber companies, Goodrich and Cooper. The tires and stuff were made with that rubber, so being they were U.S. supported, we weren't allowed in there and the Viet Cong knew this, of course. So they would come out and they'd rocket you and throw mortars in and stuff trying to get you, and then they'd run back into the fire, knowing that you couldn't go in after them. And
these plants were pretty big.
Yeah, they'd be equivalent to about maybe 800-900 acres. They were big plants.
Wow.
Big.
But this is standard. This is their operating. That's what they do.
Yeah, and they knew it. They knew we couldn't go into rubber plantations. They knew we couldn't get them if they hid in the citadel.
You couldn't go in. You couldn't from the air, nor could you go in land-wise.
No.
You couldn't, no.
no, it was off limits. Eventually, that turned around. We had a general over there, General Tuthill. We were supporting the Marine Corps up in Way, and that's when right after Tet, and we weren't allowed to fire into the Citadel or the Holy City.
Oh, yeah.
They were off limits.
They told me, Don, when I read what I think, that it's Way was like the cultural and spiritual.
Right,
Yeah.
the capital. Yeah, and we had bridges that went across the Perfume River that the Marine Corps had outposts on, and we would fly up there to kind of survey the area for him and do missions
Surveil.
up
Yeah.
there. And same thing, they'd fire at you, they'd shoot at you, and then they'd run into the city. They knew. So we had General Tuthill one time. He was a Marine Corps general, two-star, I believe. He needed to ride up to the city away. He wanted to see firsthand what's going on. So he's flying.
Pre-Tet.
Huh?
Pre-Tet. Before Tet.
No, this was just after Tet.
Oh, okay.
Just after Tet. In fact, it was the tail end of Tet. It could have still been during that period of time. But on the way up, he's looking and he's saying, wow. And we told him that the biggest problem is, sir, they run into the
Yeah.
So he got tired. He said, I'm tired of losing my Marines. He says, that's no longer off limits. We said, oh, are you kidding me? He said, they go in, go get them. Yeah. And he told everybody on the ground because we dropped them off, and he was telling me he was a two-star general, but he came up through the ranks. He wasn't one of these college graduates.
Yeah.
I mean, he started as a corporal
Ivy League
in World War II or something.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a tough old bird,
Yeah.
And he said, I'm tired of losing my Marines. He said, this is going to stop.
It was some tough fighting. We interviewed a Marine veteran, did some street fighting in Hawaii.
Oh, yeah.
And he said it was really tough because there was no air support. You had to just fight your way in.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
there was no air support for what you told me.
Yeah. That's why we didn't. That's why they didn't have air support. We weren't allowed in. And the thing was, when we were in Bambi too, and everybody was going up the Way, and everybody knew Way was a hot spot. Man, you go up there, you may not even come out of there. So I get my orders the next morning. I go into the operations center, and they said, "Oh yeah." I told them what aircraft I was in and everything. He hands me back. I said, "Oh, I'm going to Hugh. Where the hell is Hugh?" And they said, "Oh wait." Then he said, "That's Way. That's how they spell it, H-U-E." And I'm saying to myself, "Oh man, this isn't good." So, but there was a lot of action going on up there.
And Don, as far as like the you were in Nam for how many?
Actually, I was there for about 14 months.
14 months.
Yeah.
And based on my prior discussions with you, so you were there when Way, when the Tet Offensive. You were there in the Tet Offensive.
At the tail end of the Tet Offensive.
Tell me, like what your
the Tet Offensive was really. We were in an area, like I said, we were in a strategic area at the post compound, and several times they tried to overrun us, and we'd have the Claymore mine set up, and we'd have guards all along our perimeter fence that would repel the attack and drive the Vietnamese back, and stuff like this. It was getting to be a nightly occurrence. So they'd attack at 1 in the morning, then again at 5 in the morning. They would do tactics to unnerve you, especially the air crews. They didn't like helicopters, didn't like them, because they call them deaths from above. They couldn't get away from these things.
A Huey? Was it a Huey?
Yeah, it was a UEC model, yeah. And the thing was that we'd go in with our gunships and soften the area up for troops to go in first. But what they would do when they attacked at night, they'd blow a bugle or a whistle just to break the concentration.
To get terror to...
Yeah, and you hear this and you associate that with a massive attack. Now you're up to unbelievable anxiety waiting for this. They would blow the bugle and not attack, then they would blow the bugle and attack, so you never knew. And that was the hardest part of being on the wire, is that I did that a couple of times. I'm saying, man, this is not good, you know. And they would have what they call Bangalore torpedoes. The Viet Cong would sneak up to the fence in the dark and put these Bangalore torpedoes. They're about 6 foot long. They'd put them under the fence or through the fence, and they were explosive devices. And when they blew up, they blew all the wire out. So there was a hole for them to pour right through. So you had to be real careful at night, you know. It was pretty scary.
Most of the time, Don, it would happen at night doing that stuff.
Yeah.
Or most or all.
Yeah. Most.
They wouldn't maybe come in the day.
Occasionally they would during Tet, they did, but normally no.
Okay.
They would use the cover of darkness to, you know, covertly sneak up to the wire, and you know, our guards took the job seriously. When you pulled guard duty,
Yeah.
you knew darn well that could be your life if you ain't for somebody else's if you don't do your job. You know?
Yeah, in other words, you can no chilling and sleeping and none of that. That's
There was always 3 guards in each of the towers,
mm-hmm.
and the reason they did that was they had one guy. All his job was to, on guard duty, to keep the other 2 guards awake. You know what I mean? If you're there by yourself, you're more apt to
Right.
doze off.
Right.
But if you're 2 or 3 guys, you could start talking before you know it. The night's over. You know.
right.
So, and there was no drinking, nothing
Mm.
in there. I mean, we had that issue other times, but not on guard duty. That was serious stuff.
Did you besides making your base secure and making sure, you know, in these attacks that would happen often, mostly during the night, did you go on any combat missions?
Yeah. What we had to do now, President Johnson at the time said we weren't in Cambodia, we're not in Laos. You know, they said it's all nonsense. And so we were about 30 miles from the Cambodian border, 30, 40 miles. And we took off one night with Delta Force, the Army Special Forces. We're on a secret covert mission that had to be done at midnight or around dark. And so we took off at like 8 o'clock at night. It was just getting dark. And we were flying west, towards Cambodia. And we're flying, and we're flying, and we're flying. I'm thinking to myself, hey, we've been flying for almost an hour. We are well inside of Cambodia, regardless of what Washington said. We were well inside of Cambodia. And we dropped them off, went into LZ, landing zone. We'd go in, lights out, so nobody could see us, drop them off and get right out of there. Excuse me. And I knew we were flying west because we watched the sun go down, and we were flying all this time at about 90 miles an hour. So we well inside of Cambodia, you know. So, I mean, that was kind of unnerving because afterwards I went to file a claim here, and I got my flight records. And I remember it was July 4th, that flight was on Independence Day.
68?
Huh?
68?
Yeah, July 4th of 68. I remember that because it was July 4th. And they were having a barbecue back at our base, and we couldn't be really drinking or anything because we were going to fly later that night.
Right.
So I knew it was July 4th, but yet my flight records show 2 hours more on July 3rd and 2 hours more on July 5th. Nothing in July 4th. There was no record of us being in Cambodia at all,
That was purpose, on purpose.
which was Washington's
Yeah.
plan all along, you know. It didn't matter to us. We were under orders to fly. We'll fly anywhere,
Yeah.
you know. But
So you go ahead, Don. So
it was just
So
scary.
you coming back, or did you come back okay?
Oh yeah, we come back
Yeah.
fine. Yeah, we
Okay.
came back and it was about maybe 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. We got back, we refueled the aircraft, put it to bed, and then the next morning, they didn't put us on the flight schedule because they knew we were up most of the night, you know, on a mission. So They didn't put us on the flight schedule that day.
And thinking about, Don, a couple times you were talking to me about your experience, like what were the most harrowing missions that you went on? That's where I'm going at.
Okay. That's the mission we got shot down in. That was February 18th, 68.
Remember the day.
I remember the day. And we took off in the morning. We had several sorties missions that day to put South Vietnamese troops into the field, into the bush.
Transport.
So we were transporting all day long, according to the flight schedules. So we took off like 9:30 in the morning, and outside of Miami to it, on our flight path, there was a waterfall, a pretty decent sized waterfall. And our pilot, Mr. Hanna, his name was, he was a warrant officer. He would fly up these waterfalls and all of a sudden pull pitch and go up the waterfall like it scared the hell out of everybody on the aircraft. He did that like twice, I think. We did that morning. The third time we go in, we pull pitch and go up the waterfall, and as we're gaining altitude, we all of a sudden, bam! There's North Vietnamese company, or it wasn't a battalion, it wasn't that many people, but a company of North Vietnamese soldiers right at the top of the waterfall in a big clearing. They never heard us coming. Normally the rotor wash, you could hear a Huey coming from miles away, but the waterfall had such a roar to it, they never heard us coming. We never knew they were there. They never knew we were coming, man. It was just chaos. We saw, all I remember Mr. Hanna yelling was, open fire, he yelled. And we seen it. They were going for the rockets, the RPGs and stuff, so we started firing, just taking all these people out. Because it was just, wow, man, it was surprising. They didn't know we were there, and we didn't know they were there. And it was one of these things that they had to react and we had to react, and it was who reacted the fastest was going to come out good.
Yeah.
And as we were pulling away from this, a bullet they were shooting, they hit our mic, they hit through the cockpit and on the flight deck, and the second bullet came up to the ceiling, and another bullet came in, and where I sat, there were two pipes. And if you look at the inside of a Huey, you'll see smoke grenades on the pipes, red smoke, which you drop out for landing zones, a hot zone, okay to land here and all that other stuff. These smoke grenades were on this pipe. The bullet come in and hit the pipe and busted apart. And I felt a sting in my leg. So when I bent over, another bullet come next to my head into the transmission of the helicopter, which was right behind me. I didn't realize what happened. I looked down to, what's my legs killing me? What am I looking at? I look down and I see blood and hydraulic oil on the floor right where I'm sitting. I'm saying, oh man. Just at that time, the pilot, the aircraft commander who was sitting in the left seat, said, we're losing it, we're losing it. And he said something outside. I don't remember what he said, but I remember him saying, we're losing it, we're losing it. And we got about 13 miles, and the whole cockpit filled up with smoke and stuff, exhaust, and name it. And
Don, did you make it? Were you now over the waterfall?
No, we were about 13, 14 miles from where we
first
from that waterfall.
Okay.
We kept heading any way we could to get out of line of fire.
Yeah.
We were heading in the direction we shouldn't have been. The plan was to go this way. We had to evade, and we went that way. So now we had the decision of now what do we do? The bullet come through and took the radio out. Nobody knows where we are. My leg is bleeding like a son of a gun. So I decided to put a wrap on it. I reached down and get a first aid kit, and I kind of opened it up and shake it free so I could get a wrap to put on my leg. I got a scar right on the top of my die now from it. And we were just flying along, and it all happened so fast, but it was happened so fast, but it was like slow motion. It was really, really weird. The aircraft, I remember pitching and tilting and stuff like this, and I could tell we were losing altitude because we were all facing forward like this. And we went into outside of the community, a mountain town,
A
village, Quinyon, outside of Quinyon, between Quinyon and Tuiwa. We went down into the jungle, and this jungle was, again, a triple canopy jungle where you go through it, and it closes right up behind you. You can't see on the ground looking through the jungles. And so what happened was after we landed on our side, on my side. My machine gun dug into the dirt, and all I was thinking of, I gotta get out of here because we just had fuel this thing. I'm worried about fire and stuff. So we go get out, and the aircraft commander had broken his leg. So what we did is my crew chief, Dickie Ledwig, he took his knife and cut one of the seatbelts out to splint the leg of the aircraft commander. And we took some bamboo that was shattered from where we hit. We took some of the bamboo and made a splint for him and tied it with the seatbelt. Biggest thing was to get away, because we couldn't call and get support. Had no way of contacting them. The Viet Cong knew they hit us bad and we were going to go down. Now they want to find us. So we have that on our mind. Thank God we got maybe 13, 14 miles from the impact to the crash site. And I had taken a heavy gauze pad, and wrapped it around my leg, and then I took a knife and I cut part of my flight suit into a strip so I could tie that. Not a tourniquet, just to put pressure on it. And it was fine, but I could tell there was a piece of metal in there. I could feel it.
Was it a lot of pain?
Oh yeah, a lot of pain. Yeah, a lot of pain. But the pain subsided when we started realizing the predicament we were in. You didn't feel the pain anymore. You're saying, it's there, but it's going to be even more painful if they capture you. So let's put our heads together and figure this out. It got to be that that was approximately 11:30 to 12 o'clock, noon, when we finally got out of the aircraft. We decided we got to get away from the aircraft, because if they find the aircraft, they know we're going to be around somewhere.
And then you have one, the commander, he's got a bum leg.
Yeah, he's got a broken leg.
Could he walk on it?
No. We dragged him kind of as best we could. He could have walked on it, but we were just such in a panic. We wanted to get away, grab him and get out of here. We didn't say, "Can you stand up and walk and put weight on it?" No, we just grabbed him and all that.
No, and you had to get as far.
Yeah,
away.
we had to get away from that aircraft for two reasons. Number one, fire, and number two, they're going to find it. Man, the word goes out. They're going to find that thing eventually. You don't want to be near it. And we're saying, now, here's the problem. We got in the way of telling anybody. How are they going to find us? That was a major concern. Mm-hmm. So we found a little hill. It was about maybe 30, 40 feet wide. But from that hill, we could look down onto a trail. There was a trail. You could actually see the trail where the elephant grass was laid over. So people were walking on that all the time. So we said, well, this is good. We'll So then we decided we're not going to go wandering, because Dickie Ludwig said, "You want me to go make a circle around here and see if there's anything here, a village or anything?" So we stay together. So we were on this hill, and we laid feet to feet in each direction. There were 4 of us, so we looked in 4 different directions. And thank God we were empty at the time when we got hit, because we didn't have troops going out. We were going out to pick some up and bring them back. So we're laying there at night, and it got dark, and we're saying, oh man, what now? We haven't heard a thing, nothing. The radio shot. Most of the guns and ammunition are shot on the aircraft because it was more or less totally destroyed. And
Didn't Don, as far as you know, at least when you were there, it didn't catch on fire.
no, no, it didn't catch on fire.
But that happens.
Oh
That
yeah,
happens all the-
oh yeah, and boy, that was the first thing on my mind, because I had to crawl to get out of it. And I'm saying, man, if I get stuck in here, I'm going to burn to death, because there's no way I can. My side of the aircraft was on the ground, so I had to go out the other way.
And it's not, and walking had to be, for you, it was difficult. It was,
Yeah, but it's amazing. I think back of it now, the pain I had with that, but I didn't feel it, because the adrenaline is, I mean, the adrenaline was, when you're in a panic like that, you could feel your heart beating in your heels. I mean, it's
oh
just,
my gosh.
and I'm 19 years old, you know. I've never been used to something like this, you know.
Yeah.
And so we finally got to this clearing, and on the little hill, we're sitting foot to foot, and we said, if you hear something at night, just press your foot, you know, against somebody else, to alert all the others to lay low and stay, yeah.
Quiet.
So all night long, we didn't say a word to either of us. We just laid and watched, and nobody could sleep, of course, you know, I mean, and there was ambient light from the moon, not a lot, but enough you could, once your eyes were adjusted, you could make out a shadowy figure if it was close to you. Around 2 in the morning, or maybe later, I don't know, it could have been close to sunrise, like I said, I don't know, but we heard Vietnamese talking down on the trail, and we're saying, they could be friendlies, or they could be Viet Cong at this time of the morning. You know, 5 in the morning, 4 in the morning. Chances are the local farmers aren't using the trail. You know, so we said, well, maybe they're Viet Cong. If that be the case, we're outgunned. So just keep our mouth shut. Let them pass. You know, instead, don't engage them. Well, that was an agreement we had made earlier. That, hey, with the amount of ammunition we got left and the guns and the conditions they are, I had my .45 in my ankle holster, and that was about it. Oh, the aircraft commander had a weapon also.
But it was a pistol.
Yeah, handgun, yeah, 45s, and so we decided, well, let's not engage them. We don't have the firepower to engage them. So anyway, around, I guess it was around 6, just after daybreak, or just at daybreak, it was gray out. You know,
Hazy.
that early minute.
Hazy.
And I happened to be looking down on the trail, and I seen movement. I wasn't sure what it was, so I pushed my foot at everybody who would respond. So quietly, they're turning around to look too. And we see like 4 or 5 people walking down on that trail. So I'm saying, wow, man, who were they, you know? So as they're walking, I happen to see one guy with a radio, you know, the military radios with the antenna. He had the antenna folded over so he wouldn't be seen, right? But he had a 5-point hat on, the Marine Corps soft cap. He didn't have a helmet on. The others had helmets. This guy had a Marine Corps soft hat on. And I saw the 5-point hat. I'm saying, that's freaking Marines. So I reached down my flight suit, and I have a clicker, which we use for communication. I just went, click, click, like that. You know what a clicker is, right?
Seen it in the movies.
Yeah, in the movies, yeah. I just went, click. And they ducked down to the elephant grass. So I'm saying, oh, man, they got to be ours, because why would they be ducking, you know? So the one guy stood up, and he was looking. I could see his face in the grass. And while we're watching him, the rest of them sneak up from behind us. That's how clever these guys were. And he says, I forget what they said, the first words he said, because we were just ecstatic to see them. And it was amazing.
Was it much after, Don, the Vietnamese? Was it much later that morning then? In other words, where you remember you had those come up,
right?
And it was much later, or
yeah. This was by this time it was daylight.
Okay.
Daylight.
Okay.
So they took us to the Mountain Yard Village, where they airlifted us out to the hospital.
Yeah, okay.
Finally, when the Marine Corps, as I'm thinking, I remember somebody saying to the Marine Corps detachment that found us was a LRP unit. They call them LRPs, the Long Range Reconnaissance Patrols, Long Range Reconnaissance. And I remember somebody saying to them, "What are you guys doing here?" or something like this, and they said, "Oh, we're looking for you." And they kind of figured back at base what the pilot could have done when we got hit. They knew we got hit, and they knew we went down because we didn't show up.
Yeah.
But they kind of put two and two together, two pilots, to say, "Hey, Mr. Hanna, he'd do this, Let's look here, if that were me, they were here, he was here, which way would he go?" And they went and they looked all over for us the whole day and the whole night. And they finally found us that morning, and they took us to this Mountain Yard Village. And we were there for maybe 2 hours, something like 2 hours. And then finally dust-off came, the air ambulances, and they lowered a Stokes basket down, and we put the commander in the thing, and they hoisted him up, and then they went a little further, and they dropped the ladder down, and I hobbled up the ladder to get on the board, and they flew us.
Still at that point, Don, excuse me, sir, pain. Now,
Oh, yeah.
now you're okay.
Now the pain is a little bit worse because I had been moving around. And during the night, it wasn't too bad because we were so concentrated on something else. I knew the pain was there, but that was not my concern. My concern was we don't want to get captured. When you're in a helicopter, you don't want to get captured by the enemy. They hate the helicopters. So they took us to, I believe it was 156 Medical Detachment in Tay Ninh. It was a field hospital, MASH type unit. And they patched us up there, and then they flew me to, me and the aircraft commander, we went. Most of the guys that got wounded went to Guam or one of them places. They flew us to Triple Army Medical Center in Hawaii, and I was there for 16 days, convalescent leave. And then they sent me back, flight surgeon released me, and I went back to Vietnam. And that's because I had some lost time. I decided I'm going to just stay and make it up because I felt like
Did they? So the surgery and Don, it was successful.
Yeah. It was not really a big issue with that. It left a scar and it hurt for a long time, but they took the metal out and everything. Yeah. And when we got back, our helicopter was there. They lifted it out of the jungle. Oh. And they didn't want to just leave it there because there was so many good parts on it. And
really? They got it with one of those big heavy lifts?
Yeah, they got like one, I don't know how they did. I think it was a Chinook, a CH-47 lifted it out. On the tail rotor, on the back of the helicopter, the tail rotor is driven by a chain that goes down to a sprocket. And that's what drives off the drive shaft. It turns the rotor. The chain is 24 inches long. There were four of us. They cut the chain in 6-inch pieces. Okay? This is the 6 inches of mine. That's the actual chain from the aircraft I got shot down.
Where did you get that? You to get a close up.
That's the actual chain from that helicopter.
That is so amazing.
Yeah. And each of us got a piece, and we all made bracelets out of them. And this is the original one. It's in good condition. It's great condition all these years. You know. But anyway, after that
But Donna, the helicopter spare parts. You're not gonna fix it and.
no they got a lot of parts off it. You know, things that were needed.
Yes.
I mean, flight instruments, altimeters, and you name it. All that stuff was good. I mean, and although the Army had a good supply chain over there for supply, a lot of times it took time to get stuff. And if you needed something in a hurry, you didn't have it. So at least now anytime they could possibly get the helicopter out of the bush, they would bring it back and try to cannibalize it and use the parts or store them, you know, in case they did need them. It all depended. The supply chain there, even like I said, it was good, but a lot of times got interrupted too. You know, so you never knew for sure if you were going to get parts. When they say they'll be there Tuesday, they don't tell you what Tuesday, you know.
Yeah.
So it was good having the aircraft back, but we got some great pictures of it. I have pictures they took in the field before they lifted it out. I have some pictures. I'll have to bring them in and show you some.
Definitely.
But they're quite a thing, you know. But another time we went back on flight status. And this was kind of weird.
Same mission, same unit, and the same.
Yeah, same unit, 155. And when you come back from a mission, we were on a gunship. We had a gunship, and that's different than a troop transport. But when we come back from Hawaii, we went onto a gunship, a gun platoon. There was two platoons, two flight platoons with 155 stagecoach, which the name is, that's a transporter, and the Falcons, which were the gunships. So the first time we were the stagecoach. The second time when we got back to flight duty, they put us into the gunships and stuff. The thing is with the gunships, it's got 7 rockets on a pod. There's 2 pods, and they're the folding fin 2.75 millimeter rockets. In other words, the fins collapse while it's in the tube, and then they spring open when you fire it. And then it's got to make so many revolutions, and then it arms itself. Plus that, we had the miniguns, the Gatling guns, which those are awesome to begin with. They're controlled by the pilot through gun sight.
Don, if I can interrupt, is this the precursor to the Cobra?
Yeah. It was the last models they made for Cobra. In fact, the Cobra was starting to come into service as I was leaving. I'd seen a couple of Cobras, and what the heck are them things, you know? But anyway, we had a regular gunship that we were on, and when we completed the mission, we took turns to fuel it, arm it. We'd take it to the bore sight pad, where they would take, like a rifle, they bore sight it, make sure your aiming point and rocket and the rockets were the same. So they call that the bore sight pad. We'd fuel it at the
So it'd be like real quick, Don, it'd be like a calibration. Make sure it's.
Yeah. Yep, that's exactly what it is. With all the vibration and everything, it's easy to lose calibration. So we go to the POL pad, fuel it, arm it, and then one of us, me or the crew chief, would get in the pilot seat. We were allowed to taxi it. We couldn't fly, but we were allowed to take it 4 feet up off the ground and park it in the revetment where we were assigned. And that was nice. At least I got to fly 30 feet. But one day, this was really, really, really weird. One day, it was my turn to service it and put it away. The other 3 guys, crew chief and the 2 pilots, decided, let's go into town and have a beer. So I said, okay, I'll meet you. I'll put the bird away and then sign out, let operations know we're ready to go tomorrow, and we go out. So we get the thing fueled. I put it away. I go back to operations. I figure, hey, let me just finish a letter to my mom and dad. So I finish the letter off, put it down in the company mailbox outgoing, and I head into town. Meantime, I knew where they were going. Meantime, I get there, and they are already been drinking. Then they were stacking their beer cans up. So they was kind of feeling no pain. A little
3
bit.
sheets to the wind, kind of.
Yeah, not really drunk.
But they were
But
feeling it.
yeah, because we were done flying for the day.
They were feeling it.
And the town is right outside the gate. So we're sitting there. They're sitting in the back corner, and there was mirrors all around. And the seats were these high, overstuffed chairs with the mirrors on top. So I come in, and I sit next to my crew chief. The 2 pilots were sitting across from us. Dickie Ludman, my crew chief, and myself, we're watching the door. We're facing towards the door. And they're joking around because they're drinking and stuff, not paying attention. All of a sudden, this guy comes in. He was dressed just like a civilian, with an AK-47, and starts firing in the building. Man, GIs are dropping like crazy. I grabbed Dickie Ludwig and bail him out under the table. We go, just as the bullets come right over the top of us, and the stuffing is coming out of the seats, falling on top of us. The pilots leaned backwards, and they fell backwards on their chair. Meantime, the noise, the whole place is smoky, full of gunfire, gun smoke. Finally, a MP comes in who happened to be outside, comes in, pow, man, kills the guy. And meantime, man, there's like 4 or 5 people wounded there. Nobody got killed, but they were all wounded.
Yeah,
You know, they were Navy guys, Army guys, because it was a popular spot. And that I remember.
Was it Don? Was it a Vietnamese or was it American?
Huh?
The establishment,
the shooter.
was it
Vietnamese or American?
Oh, he's Vietnamese. It was Viet Cong, but he wasn't dressed in the Viet.
Right.
Now, if he would have walked in with black pajamas on, he would have never made it.
Right.
I mean, he would have never made it in because the MPs were all over out there because it's a popular place. And thank God they were there
Yeah.
because none of us had weapons. I mean, we were there just for a beer.
No injuries to you or
No, none of my crew. No,
Just-
I credit to our getting out unscathed to the fact that I wasn't drinking. They were. I still had all my senses and reflexes. They didn't. They didn't know what the heck was going on.
That,
I grabbed them and
Your crew chief, you said, pretty much saved his life.
well, yeah, I don't know if he would have got shot or not because
But the
when
bullets were close.
when the bullets went over the top of us, they were maybe that high over my head.
Yeah.
You know, so had they been lower, of course, we were sitting there, you would have got killed. But,
Right.
but that was one of the other experiences I had over there, and that was pretty hairy at the time.
Don, in the future, you kind of thought twice. You were a lot more aware when you went out on town, right? Went out
Oh
on
yeah.
town.
In fact, even today, I will never sit with my back towards the door. Even Dorothy knows that we go into a restaurant. She knows right where I have to sit. Yeah, I can't do that. I can't sit without seeing the door.
Is that Don? Is that like a thing about PTSD? That type of.
Yeah, it's a trigger. It's a trigger. I go into a place. If I go into a strange place, the first thing I do is look, see where the exits are, and then position myself where I can see both of them. You know, and if I can, you know.
And I just interrupt the fact you're an author, right, of a PTSD book, and is your passion, you know, because you've been affected, but you wrote it because of, you know, you had the problem and you know, just also to help other GIs. And I
Yeah.
think you told me 3 years ago that, you know, it has sales.
Oh,
It
yeah.
has been used.
Yeah, we've sold over 20,000 copies now worldwide. It's been out since 2000.
Yeah.
I think I copyrighted in 2000, early 2015. 2015. But
You have a ministry. You have a ministry today
yeah, I got
to
the Israeli Defense Forces
PTF.
use it. in their clinics. The Colombian border guards use it. A couple of big other military agencies, but the book did real well. I mean, did good in the United States, and my distributor for the Netherlands takes care of like Europe and Japan and stuff like that. But it still does. It's not doing good now as it did back then, because there's so many other books out there.
Did it help you, Don, as far as your journey? I mean,
Yes, absolutely. In fact, I was under treatment with the Veterans Administration, and the doctor was named Danny Burke, Dr. Burke. He was a psychiatrist in Vieira, the VA. He was a Gulf War survivor, a Gulf War veteran, and he had a good handle on PTSD. Just being a doctor.
So he was
and
effective.
being a tourist.
Yeah.
He was the one that told me, he says, you know, you ought to write down all the stuff that's happened to you. He says, and when it starts to affect you, stop. And then next time you feel like doing it, write it down again. And he says, you never know.
Was that the basis of the book?
Yeah, he says, you never know. It may turn out to be a best-selling book. And I said, yeah, right. You know, so that's what I did. I started writing this stuff, and it took me about a year to write all these experiences down that I went through. And I interviewed others, other veterans. I called my crew chief buddy out, he's out in Salina, Kansas. And I talked to him, and we had the same experiences. And I said, well, how did that affect you? And I told him how it affected me, and you know, because we went through the same exact thing together, and it does affect the way somebody looks at it. I mean, you could look at it one way, and I can look, and that's more common now with female veterans. A female veteran and a male soldier could look at an incident, and each have two different takes on
Reactions to it.
reactions to it.
Yeah.
So responses and triggers is a large
Yeah.
part of the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's really, Don, personal experience, interviewing other people that had
Yeah.
it, and maybe does it have like real quick? Does it have like how to deal with it? Or?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's got tips that work for me. They may not work for you, but they may.
Right.
Or something you do may work for me and not.
Right.
But there's things on there, like I interviewed people that had somewhat something to offer. Like I interviewed somebody who was the last cook on the USS Cole that got bombed in the harbor.
And by the way, it was here for a visit about 20 years ago. I was there.
Oh.
It had a patch.
Oh, really? Yeah?
Big patch, yeah.
Oh, I would have loved to see that. And then we had I interviewed a gentleman. He was World War II. He was on the battleship that, if you heard the story of Pearl Harbor, when a submarine followed a battleship into the harbor, and they started depth charging it. Well, he was on that ship, and he was telling me how general quarters was sounded early in the morning because they saw the submarine behind them, and they knew it wasn't one of our subs.
Yeah.
And he was telling me the whole story. I try to interview people like that really had something to,
And
that I could really,
you try to do a variety of situations.
Yeah.
The traumatic, yeah.
yeah. And I didn't just stick to Army. I interviewed Marines, sailors. I interviewed one sailor, lives in Port St. John. He's a friend of mine now. His name's Ed Osborne. He was on the USS Wainwright, and they got off course somehow, and they ended up being escorted back into Vladivostok, Russia. Vladivostok, submarine base in Russia, I guess, or something like that. They went there. He's got severe case of PTSD too.
Oh, wow.
Things like this. These are the people, you know, that I wanted to interview for the book.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
it's worked out real well.
Yeah.
You know,
Even today, you're doing work with veterans with horses.
Yeah. I'm the CEO of Veterans Connections, which is an organization that helps veterans transition from military to civilian life. The military teaches us how to fight, but they don't teach us how to become a father and husband again. You know, and that's a big problem. Which not everybody, but it's a big problem with people who are affected by this. You know,
Don, let's go ahead and get back on track, and I wanted to
Okay.
save that for the end, sir.
Right.
Any other, Don, any other experiences that really impacted your life after that?
In the military?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. Like I say, I wanted to stay in, but I did the 3 years, and then I had 3 years of
Reserve.
reserves. I wanted to stay in, but it got to the point where the last 10 months or so is stayed at Fort Meade, Maryland, and I knew with a combat flight MOS they may send me back to Vietnam, because Vietnam was really hot then in the early, 68, 69, it was still really hot. So what I did is, they said that if you go to any schools, if you're in school, they don't send you to Vietnam. I'm saying, oh, good. So I got a list of schools, and I went to my first sergeant, and I signed up for cook school, baker's school, anything I could that was open that I could take, just because I didn't want to go back to Vietnam. I had the 14 months there, and so I said, well,
So you were eligible, the way the Army policy, you're eligible to rotate back in.
oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah, okay.
yeah. If they want you,
Yeah,
you're going.
yeah.
I mean, your reserve duty is the same thing. They want you. You
Yeah,
got to go.
I was in a 2x6 program, yeah. So.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah.
At the end of, when they signed the armistice, I came in February of '73, so.
Oh, yeah. So I decided, well, I'm just going to take any school that was available. And they said, well, cook school's available. I'll take it. How many weeks? 5 weeks. Okay, that's 5 weeks. I don't have to worry about it. What's this one? Oh, this pastry school. How long is that? That's 3 weeks. Good, I'll take that one too. Now 8 weeks, I don't have to worry about it. And then pretty soon I saw I was a professional student at the last 10 months of my service. I'd go to any school that was there, just not go back to Vietnam.
So, Don, did you, I think you alluded to it, did you maintain any friendships?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That was that gentleman, the crew chief?
Yeah, Dickie Ludwig.
And
Dick Ludwig.
anybody else that?
Yeah, one of the other pilots is named Johnny Repass. John Repass. He was, in fact, when we come back from Vietnam, we met again after that at Fort Meade, Maryland, because he was stationed he lived in Baltimore, somewhere in Anne Arundel County, and he got there and he asked to be sent to
Fort Meade.
Fort Meade. When they asked me where I wanted to go, coming back from Vietnam, they gave me orders to Fort Wainwright, Alaska, Fort Greeley, Alaska, one of them. And I'm saying, man, coming back from the tropics, going to Alaska. So I went in and I was on leave. So I went down. I was married by then, and so I went down to the Pentagon. I drove down there, and from New York.
Did you have like a detailer you went to? You had like a detailer that gives assignments that on an
Yeah. And I went down there and I talked to them. I said, "Look, I don't want to go to Alaska, man. It's too far from home. I live where you live in New York. Well, we see what we have for you in that area." So I said, "How about Fort Dix?" So New Jersey. No, nobody there. I said, "How about Fort Devens, Massachusetts?" Because Fort Devens was open at the time. No, so they said the closest we can get you to New York is Fort Meade. I said, I'll take it. It's a 5-hour ride, but still, I could do weekends. Yeah.
It's better than like a 7 or 8 hour flight.
Yeah, from Alaska. And so I that's where I finished my military was in Fort Meade.
Okay, so you finished it in Fort Meade. Do you remember the day the service ended?
Yeah, November 22nd
of
'69.
And it was at Fort Meade, right?
Yep.
Then, how did you feel at that time? You feel relieved or?
No, I felt cheated. I felt cheated that I don't know. I wanted to stay in, and I'm saying, there's so many other things I wanted to do, and I was so afraid of going back to Vietnam. I'm saying, no, the only way to avoid it is
You know?
get out.
You didn't want to press your luck.
No,
Yeah.
no.
And it sounds from that one experience
Yeah.
when you were shot over that waterfall.
Oh, yeah.
We were so lucky.
And we had others. I mean, we crashed once over there. We took off in the night with no lights on. We hit a fence. You know? I mean, something like that. I mean, it's all these experiences. The Agent Orange experience, unbelievable.
Don, just like talking to Ben Bidalik and others, were you affected by it?
Oh, absolutely. We would fly escort to the helicopters. Some of the helicopters had boom sprayers on. There were 20 nozzles, 10 on each side. And they would spray, they had a big tank inside, and they would spray Agent Orange low level over the trees. We would go with them to make sure they didn't get shot at. We fly, of course, doors open. So your flight suit would just soak with Agent Orange because you're following them. And the air had blown it back. So you didn't have, if you didn't have that duty the next day, you come home and you put your flight suit on the hanger to dry out. Next morning you put the flight suit back on. You're going to do transport today or do this today, whatever. So now you're sweating with that flight suit on again. We used to take the 55-gallon Agent Orange drums, cut them in half and make barbecues with them. You know, we'd get the motor pool, the weld hinges on the back, so we'd have like smokers. And we open these barrels up, and there'd be liquid laying in the barrel. You know, they couldn't get out. So here you're building a fire right over the top of this liquid orange. Of course, we didn't know how it was.
Yeah. Did you have any after effects of the Agent Orange?
Oh yeah, yeah. I've had pituitary problems, adrenal problems. High blood pressure. I had everything that shows on the
As a side effect.
yeah, as a side
symptom.
effect I have. I mean, the cancers, the whole thing, the whole nine yards. You know.
Yeah, Norm Desmarius still has it in his blood. He says once you get it in your blood, you can't get it out.
It's
Yeah.
what is it? What they call a forever chemical?
Yeah,
Is it?
and see, in Vietnam they had the rainbow. They were called rainbow herbicides. It was Agent Orange, Agent White, Agent Green, Agent Purple, and yellow. I think there was 5 of them, and they were all different things. Agent Orange was the worst because it was a dioxin poisoning that they used for defoliant. Back then, of course, we didn't know any of this, so you didn't worry about it. You didn't think about it until they came. Hey, whoa, wait a minute, we might have a problem with this stuff. But I feel sorry for, more than us or myself, I feel sorry for the Vietnamese. They have farms over there that can never be used because it's saturated so much into the soil, it's going to be there forever. They have the same chemical, they have the same problems that we have, the cancers and this and that and this, that they were exposed to. But they have no help. They don't have the government, the VA, to go in and give you medications and stuff. They don't have any of that. So I feel sorry for them in a way. They ruined a lot of good farms over there and a lot of nice trees and plantations. And, you know, it was necessary? Yes, it was necessary. Because like I say, these triple canopy jungles are ancient jungles, hundreds and hundreds of years old. You can't see the ground. All you see is triple canopies.
Yeah.
You know, so, but the Agent Orange was just one of these things. I mean, you know, now that we know, it's too late.
Yeah.
But we're fortunate that we have a VA that we have here. You know, a lot of people complain about the VA. But when I was writing my book, I contacted the VAs in Russia, Japan, Australia. How did they handle? Here's a good one, Argentina. I talked to the people in Argentina at the VA down there. The only ones they cover in their hospitals are veterans that were in the Falkland Islands War back in the 80s, I think that was, yeah.
Who was that?
The Falkland Islands.
Well,
were?
what?
Argentina. That's where the Falklands are.
Yeah.
When the British, you know, when they tried to have that confrontation there not that long ago, in the 80s.
Yeah. So were you back in that time? So like the the distortion from the, you know, the people reporting about how they were doing on Vietnam, you know, the Pentagon Papers and all that, that was coming out. That came out around '69.
Yeah.
And so then the public perception and opinion turned.
Mm-hmm.
So when you got home, Don, did your family? How did your family and community? How did they?
That's really a good question, man. I like that question because I've heard stories about people spitting on them and stuff. None of that happened to me. The only thing I did have happen is when I was in Seattle airport. When we got back, of course we didn't know what was going on. We had no news over in Vietnam like they have now. The
Stars
internet
and Stripes
stuff.
is about what you got.
Yeah, and you're lucky to get that.
Right.
But we didn't know what was happening in the States with the attitudes of the American people. When I got back to Fort Lewis, Washington, I was catching a flight back to New York City. And they told me at Fort Lewis, don't wear your uniform, wear your civvies. I was proud of my uniform, you know. I had sergeant stripes on. It was really, I was cool, you know. They said, don't wear your uniform. I said, okay. Why? Well, there's a lot of problems, people not in our favor, blah, blah, blah. Whatever. So here I am, walking through the Seattle airport, dragging a duffel bag, U.S. Army written down the side,
Right.
sidewall haircuts, tan like you wouldn't believe from being in the tropics for a year and a half, you know. And there was no doubt I was in the military, you know, so uniform didn't matter. The only thing that happened is when I went to sit down, people around me got up and moved away. And I really didn't think too much about it. I thought maybe I stunk. Who knows, you know, need more
Need a
deodorant.
shower.
Yeah. I didn't realize that was. When I got back home, my family met me. I mean, cousins and brothers, yeah, everybody. And they would tell me what was going on.
And they were, if it's Don, they were proud of you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh, my dad, he was, you know. And it was I remember it was in November I got back because I was home for Thanksgiving. I think I got 2 days before Thanksgiving, somewhere around that time. And I remember my dad and I sitting at the table, and he knew what was going on, you know, because I had conversed with him quite a bit when I got back. And he says, well, you know, that wouldn't have happened if you were in the Marine Corps. Well, you know, that wouldn't happen if you were in the Marine Corps. You know what I'm saying? Wait a minute. Could have been worse if I was in the Marine Corps. I could have been one of the guys that found me that night, you know. But today, I look back and I look at Vietnam. If somebody said, would you do it all again? Yes, I would. I would do it all again. Maybe not in Vietnam. That was wrong. I feel it was a political war. Our hands were tied. There was times over there we used to have to radio in to call and get permission to return fire. I mean, come on. You don't fight. And then they said, well, it's not a war, it's a police conflict. Well, why didn't they send cops? You know, what do you send us for? But, you know, so I have a bad feeling that the government lied and did the way they handled it. Our hands were tied there. And a lot of good men died because of that. In the time it took you to get permission to fire back, you could be dead.
Yeah.
And we've had instances like that, even my experiences. I mean, it's hard when we went out to pick up a detail out in the woods, out in the bush. There was 5 of them, 5 American soldiers, and an interpreter was with them. They were under attack. They were being driven back. They were in a hell of a firefight, and they were outnumbered. So they called in a panic. Come get us. Come get us. Blah, blah. So they dispatched, they scrambled a gunship and a troop transport. We were the troop transport. On our way out, we asked the gunship, we called over them, they were flying next to us. We told them, go in first and see if you can soften the area, drop smoke where they are so we know we can see the smoke and land right there and pick them up. They don't have to wait. We're flying out there, and they're talking to us direct on the radio frequency about where they are and what they're doing, where the enemy is, and look at 11 o'clock is where you want to concentrate your fire and stuff to pick us up. And on our way out, everything's fine. We're flying the mission. All of a sudden, we get there, nothing. No people, no enemy, nothing. Just big rice paddies.
In the course of how long, Don?
45 minutes, maybe. So the last we knew is these guys were getting overrun. We were sent out to rescue them. They gave us the wrong coordinates, and every one of them died.
Oh, wow.
And that is so hard to live with. Even to this day, I
That kind
think
of
about
mistake,
that, and
yeah.
I'm saying it wasn't our fault.
Right, right.
But that doesn't make it
Right.
easier, because
Easier.
you were talking to them face to face.
Yeah.
And I even remember telling one of the guys on radio, "Don't worry, we're coming to get you. You're safe. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We'll be there. We're on our way." Da da da. And they all died because of wrong coordinates. It's incidents like that really bother me now. I'll think about them. You know, maybe this guy could have been the one to cure cancer.
Yeah.
Or, you know,
Yeah.
he had a family, wife
Yeah.
and kids. You know, why did he die? Because they gave us the wrong directions to get to them. You know, it happens. It happens.
Thanks, Don. And then I know you continued friendships after service, and you, of course, you're not only joined a veteran organization, you were a commander.
Mhm.
I don't know if you're still a commander, but
Well, that's district commander for the VFW. Yeah.
you did people in the Army attend reunions?
Yeah, I don't.
But some do.
Yeah, some do.
Okay.
But the reason I don't is because my unit is for the whole unit. So there could be guys that have served there in 71 or 82 or whenever. You know, I wouldn't know. You know.
Okay. And this is kind of a big one, Don. How did service affect the way you relate to others?
Wow, that is a biggie. I sometimes I'm too trusting of people, because I've had instances that had changed my life. My mom and dad were very, I don't want to say racist. They were very anti-black to a point for their generation back in the 20s and 30s. So I was brought up that way. One night, we were at base. I had put the ship to sleep, and we just were doing some odd jobs, cleaning windshield and stuff. I'm coming back, and we got a mortar attack. Doom, doom, and these explosions are going off all around. So I dive into a bunker. When I dive in, I must have twisted my ankle or something. The guy with me, it was dark, it was the middle of the night, really. The guy with me says, "Are you all right?" And I said, "No, I just hurt my freaking ankle, blah, blah, blah." And all of a sudden, somebody's lifting me up out of the bunker, out of the foxhole thing. And it was a black guy. He was a cook or a baker, one of them.
Yeah.
At the, I mean, over there, race was not an issue. I imagine it was in some places over there, but my unit, man, I tell you what, there was no issues at all. I mean, you were protecting him because he was protecting you, you know, and that kind of snapped me out of that mode that I was brought up in.
Yeah.
You know, where blacks versus whites. No, over there, I mean, there was none of that.
So that was growth for you. And
Yeah.
that's in talking about how you relate to others. That took
Gene
care
Preston, his name was. I remember that. Yeah.
You get a few more. How has the military service impacted your feelings about war and the military in general? About war and the military in general.
Military today, I don't show much hope for it. I mean, we have soldiers that don't know what bathrooms to use. We have people that don't want to fight,
Yeah.
people who are just joining the military to get the benefits.
Yeah.
It's not the military that I was in, and certainly not the military our fathers were
Right.
in. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
you're the son of a veteran,
Right.
correct? Yeah. See, so it's not the same. You know, and would I be in the military today? No way.
No.
No, I was drilled to go away.
Yeah.
And to me, my perception of the military was when I was in the military, I can't adapt to what's going on now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have transsexuals in charge of Navy ships and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not, I mean, everybody got a right to live.
Right.
My opinions don't matter except to me.
Right.
You know, but now I don't think the military is.
The progressivism is just not,
Yeah.
doesn't belong in the military.
And
It
I
belong
mean,
in civilian.
it all started where at the Army base, I believe it was Fort Huachuca, Arizona, where they in the basic training they gave you a card. It was a stress card, and if the drill sergeant yelled at you too much and hurt your feelings, you would take a timeout. And this was they give you the card that you need a timeout. But seriously, what do you do when you're in combat?
Right.
And what do you do?
Right.
You know,
Good point. Good point.
I mean, it's just I don't know.
Don, what message would you leave for future generations, like your relatives and your friends that might view it? What takeaway for military service? I mean,
My military was good, and I would have recommended it. I don't today.
okay.
I just don't today. I think that
Fair, you're being honest.
yeah.
And for you, what are some of the life lessons you learned from military service? In other words, things that, whether they were good experience for you or a bad, what lessons did you learn that helped you?
Well, some that helped me, some that hurt me too. You
Right.
know, I mean, I still get up and take a shower in 15 minutes, along with going to the bathroom and
Yeah.
eating breakfast. You know, in 15 minutes.
You had that structure.
Yeah, it's all structured.
Mhm.
You look at my sink. I got my shaving cream, this, that, all.
Yes, sir.
You know, some patterns you're not going to change. What did help me in the military was being precise, being accurate of what I'm
Like the
doing.
experience you said, Don, about the coordinates. I mean,
Yeah,
you got
accuracy.
certain
yeah.
things you have to.
Yeah, and I just learned that everybody's different, so you got to kind of be tolerant of other people's.
The thing about you said about the black man that
Yeah.
helped you out.
Yeah, I'm very straightforward because that's the way the military is.
Yeah.
If I don't like you, I'm going to tell you I don't like you.
Right.
Get out of my face or
Right,
whatever. You
right.
know, I don't go out of my way to hurt people's feelings, but if that happens, so be it. You know, I mean,
You'd
that's
rather
just-
have the truth come out. And
Yeah,
none of this-
exactly. Yeah, I don't beat around the bush.
Yes, sir.
Being complacent is not one of my traits.
And you talked about, Don, about how military service affected your life. It affected you physically. It affected you psychologically.
Yeah.
And that's just something that it just. But I know that, and we'll talk about it right before we, in a few minutes. But it did shape. You wanted to stay in, but you did want no more of Vietnam.
No.
But what happened, from what I understand, is you did things. Well, you never forgot that you were a vet, and you tried. And to this day, you're still trying to benefit, trying to help vets.
That's 100% true, and the reason being is the Marine Corps, the alert patrol that rescued us out of the jungle that night. I never got a chance to thank them. Don't even know who they were. Don't know their names. They could be sitting right here in this building and not know it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think that's what inspired me to. I said, now's my chance to help.
Mm-hmm.
They helped me, and I would be. I'm positive that the Viet Cong or North Vietnamese would have found our aircraft, and we would have been in a world of hurt. Because the worst thing you want to do it'd be taken prisoner.
Okay.
You know.
About three more. What do you wish more people knew about veterans?
Just some of the hardships they go through, causes for their actions sometimes and what they do.
So you're, Don, from what I've got to know you a little bit, this thing about people not being able to get back on their feet to boost themselves, it's not that their lack of motivation. It's
No.
It's
Sometimes they can't do it. Things prevent them to doing it. Good example is that I have a veteran now that I was in contact with yesterday, wants me to help him pay his car registration because he needs to get to work. And he works in Palm Bay and he lives up this end somewhere. And he needs his car, but he's so conscientious that he will not drive that car without being registered. He's afraid of getting pulled over by the authorities and stuff. These are the people that I help. Somebody who is honest about what he needs. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that say they're veterans and they're not. That's why we vet everyone. We want to see their DD-214. We run them through different programs on computers to find out more about them. Be sure they are veterans. A lot of people say veterans. Recently, I was coming down going up 95. I got off at 520, and there was a gentleman down there with a sign, Vietnam vet, please help. And I looked at him and I said, this guy don't look over 30.
seriously, seriously.
So I called him over. He thought I was giving him money. And I just rolled down my window. He says, you in Vietnam? He goes, oh, yeah. He says, oh. I said, so was I. Where were you at? Now, being in aviation, I was all over that country. You
knew.
And he knew the couple of names he gave me made up because they were Chinese sounding. And I said, look, I don't care what you do. Don't say you're a Vietnam vet. So he said, all right, I won't. I said, in fact, give me a sign. I took the sign from him. I didn't give him no money, but still. But you run across this stuff.
Yeah. And two more. What would you like people to know? What are the takeaways from the Don Pearsall story? What are the takeaways? The Army sergeant that served in Vietnam. What are the takeaways?
Just say I wanted to help veterans and that, my family, that's the reason I did this. When you first mentioned it, I didn't want to do it. I didn't know I could talk about a lot of things. And there are some other things I just can't talk about. I just don't want to talk about them. Things that are so horrific, that have affected me so deeply, that I just don't want to talk about those things. I'm proud of my service. If the Army was back the way it was back then, I would do it all again. But other than that, my family, being there, my children don't know a lot about Vietnam because they weren't there to experience anything that went on during that period. And in some cases, they may not be interested in it. There's a lot of people just aren't interested anymore. So I think that if you're a patriot and you love your country, there's something there's something you can do other than the military. But I don't regret any of it. I've learned from it. I've had fun with it, made some great friends from it. And I was blessed.
And it provides you, Don, from what I understand, what I know of you, what little, it provides you purpose.
Oh, without doubt. Yeah. Yeah, because otherwise I'd be sitting home watching TV all day and doing nothing. Right. Where now I'm in the bush, I'm getting exercise, walking in and out of the woods and stuff. So there's a lot of things. I mean, I became a travel agent. Last year I got my license for travel agency for the state of Florida. So I do that. I help just friends and family plan trips. I don't do it for the public because I don't want to be bothered in the middle of the night because they couldn't check into their hotel, So I do it just for friends and family, and I make sure it's done right. So it gave me That I got from the military, being that accuracy. You know, I check and double check and double check, you know, make sure things are the way it's supposed to be. So,
All right, Don, and final one. Is there anything you've always wanted to share about your service or veteran experience that you never have? That you
yes.
haven't already?
No.
No. Okay.
No, some are just too,
There's certain places you're not going. That's not.
yeah, it's too horrific, too painful. Some things I will talk about because I'm proud of the way it was handled, the way we handled ourselves, like when we got shot down. We did the right thing. And a lot of it was because of what we were taught in basic training. So I can't say the Army failed us in training us the right way to handle situations like that.
Yeah, that's a good
And
wrap.
and before we go off, the veterans experience, I know it, you know, it has its ups and downs. It's been good at times, not so good, but overall, they in your how you've been damaged, they've helped you.
Oh, immensely.
Yeah.
I have no questions. The VA, years ago, a VA doctor was considered somebody who couldn't make it in his own practice, so they worked for the VA.
That's the image that I get.
That's the image. But stop and think about it. The VA is on the cutting edge of so many new technologies. I mean, they were in on the development of the MRI system, and they did so many cutting edge things that VA is now on top of. So it's no longer
It's a place of for a medical
yeah,
professional last refuge.
Yeah, last right. Yeah, not anymore. You got some sharp people in the VA. There's still some of the other Vs that are just freeloaders. You know?
All right, Don, and that,
Right.
and I, on the behalf of myself and Joe, we really thank you from our hearts for your service, and thank
Yeah.
you for your story.
Good. Well, thanks for having me do this. I'm glad you talked me into it.